For this book talk, I'm going to be doing it on John Green's novel Paper Towns. And I would say the audience for this novel would be from 9th to 12th grade, because this novel does take place in high school. It's Q, who's the main character's senior year, and it's most of the other characters' senior years too, and it's around time of prom. And Q is our main protagonist, who is against prom, and he's pretty quiet, nerdy, but cool and collected person, but he also gets nervous a lot, and he doesn't take a lot of risks. And the style of this piece is pretty light, and it has a humorous tone. For example, when Q's sitting in class, he is looking at the clock, and he's like, oh, I can't wait until this class gets over. And he even goes to say if there's 24 hours left to live, he would go to school, because then the whole day would just drag on, and the 24 hours would seem like it's more than 24 hours. I thought that was pretty funny. And this is written from the first person perspective point of view, and like I said, one of the main characters is Q, who we see everything through. And then there's Margot, who's Q's huge crush, and he's had a crush on her forever. And when they were younger, Margot and Q used to hang out until they were 9 or 10, when they went to the park and found a dead body. And they were first ones to find the body, but Q was really freaked out. But Margot really wanted to stay and like look at the blood and look at the body and everything, and Q's like, let's leave, let's get out of here. And he had to be the one dragging her out of there. And then they went home and they told their parents, and Q's parents are psychologists, and they're like, oh honey, it's okay, that's the part of life, whatever. And they're like, why don't you go down, lay down, take a nap. So he did, and then while he was doing that, Margot was out questioning the neighbors of the dead guy and finding out what really happened to him, and she was all interested in the mystery. And she went to tell Q later, and that was the last time they really talked to each other. And now they're in high school, they're seniors, and they don't really, like I said, they don't really talk. And then there's Ben Starling, which is Q's best friend, and he calls every girl he knows or talks to Honey Bunny, and he doesn't think it's offensive, and his friends are like, dude, if you want to get a girl, you probably shouldn't be calling them Honey Bunny. But anyways, there's also Radar, who is Q's other best friend, and he's pretty private about his life. He just got a girlfriend, Angela, and they just started dating, and we hear from Angela that they're dating, not Radar, because he doesn't like to talk about his private life that much. And Radar is a computer person, and he edits a website online, and his parents are also known to have the most Black Santas in their house. They have Black Santa posters, they have Black Santa salt shakers, wallpaper, you name it, they have it. They have Santas all over their house. They're known for it. And then there's also Angela, who is, like I said, Rader's girlfriend. And there's Becca and Lacey, who are Margot's best friends. And Becca is one of the girls who are really popular. And when they were in 10th grade, Ben went to the hospital for a kidney infection because he had blood in his urine. But Becca started a rumor that the reason he was hospitalized was because of chronic masturbation. And then so the whole school knew him as the guy who went to the hospital for chronic masturbation instead of kidney infection. So that wasn't very nice. But anyways, then there's Lacey, who gives a lot of backhand compliments. For example, she tells Margot a lot, oh, you're so spunky. I love how you just make guys fall in love with your personality. Like, only her personality and not like how she looks or anything. And she just does those a lot. And there's also Jace, who is, or was technically, Margot's boyfriend, but they ended up splitting up because he cheated on her with her best friend, Becca. Yeah, and the book starts off with a lot of like background information about these characters, and they're pretty memorable and very interesting characters, very colorful. And it goes on to a scene where Q is in his room, and Margot suddenly appears at midnight at his window, and she hasn't done that since they were 9. So she's there, and she's like, "Hey, I need a lift somewhere. Let's go." And he's like, "What? No, it's midnight." And then so they end up on a little adventure, and where she's like, "Well, I have a few tasks to complete. Let's do them." And he's like, what?" And she's like, I can't tell you what they are until you were doing them." And so they end up going around town doing some adventurous things, mostly revenge for Jace cheating on her and her friends being fake. But anyways, so they're driving around, whatnot, and that's what the first half of the book concentrates on. And then the second half is Margot goes missing after that night, or well, that morning technically, after he drops her off. And he and some of the other friends are trying to find Margot, and they're trying to find out what happens to her, or where she goes. And it's a really good book. It's a fast read, and it's really interesting. And I'm going to read you a passage right now that's kind of almost in the middle of the novel, but it's when Q and Margot are standing on top of one of the buildings, because apparently Margot has a bunch of connections to everyone and everything, and she knows she's very resourceful and smart and witty. And so I'm going to read you the passage when they're standing on top of the building looking over Orlando. "There in the distance, Disney World. There was Wet and Wild. There, the 7-Eleven, where Margot painted her nails and I fought for breath. It was all here, my whole world, and I could see it just by walking around a building. It's more impressive," I said, out loud. "From a distance, I mean. You can't see the wear on things, you know? You can't see the rust or the weeds or the paint cracking. You see the place as someone once imagined it. Everything's uglier up close," she said. "Not you," I answered before thinking about it. Her forehead still against the glass, she turned to me and smiled. "Here's a tip. You're cute when you're confident, and less when you're not." Before I had a chance to say anything, her eyes went back to the view, and she started talking. "Here's what's not so beautiful about it. From here, you can't see the rust or the cracked paint or whatever, but you can tell what the place really is. You see how fake it all is, and it's not hard enough to be made out of plastic. It's a paper town. I mean, look at it, Q. Look at the cul-de-sacs, those streets that turn in on themselves, all the houses that were built to fall apart, all those paper people living in their paper houses, burning the future to stay warm, all the paper kids drinking beer some bum bought for them at the paper convenience store, everyone demented with a mania of owning things, all things paper thin and paper frail, and all the people, too. I've lived here for 18 years, and I have never once in my life come across anyone who cares about anything that matters." So that's just one of the passages in the novel, and there's also a lot to do with, some of the themes are friendship, image or appearance, and with friendship, Margot, she finds out that her best friend did this horrible thing to her, cheated on her, or, was with her boyfriend or ex-boyfriend, whatever, and none of her friends, except for one of them, had the nerve to tell her. And there's also Q's friends, who Ben gets popular in the end of the novel, and he stops talking to Q, and there's the whole like friendship thing. And there's also the role of appearances and image, and Margot talks a lot about beauty, and she doesn't understand why people like other people so much just because they're pretty. And she even compares like liking people because of their appearance to picking a cereal because of its color rather than the taste. And there's also the theme of you only live once, you need to focus on the present and care less about the future. But I would really suggest reading this novel, and if you're going to use it in a classroom, I wouldn't really necessarily use it like as a core novel, but I would take passages from this novel for characterization or style or language, because John Green uses a lot of great sentences and has a lot of memorable characters. Or I would put this on a choice book list, because it does talk a little bit about sex and uses profanity. So that's the book. Hope you guys enjoyed this talk. And I just made the time limit.